I just thought that I would give you a quick update on the progress of using one of these container systems, since I promised that I would let you know how it's going. I removed the LED grow lights that stated a bogus power consumption on them, and just used some little fixtures and some bulbs that I already had just sitting around here. So I didn't actually spend anything on this stuff, and this is all just 6500K bulbs that are now providing all of the supplemental light for these, and they're doing okay so far. It's definitely not the most efficient setup. I don't even have anything to reflect the light down from these yet, although I am going to at least fabricate something basic just to redirect some of that light where it needs to go to improve things a little bit. But the seedlings are doing okay, and I'm actually at a point that I'm going to thin out all of these cabbages. There's like Bok Choy, Chinese cabbage, Raab. So I'm going to pick the best plant in each container and get these watered, and I just wanted to show you that. And also, as it is right now, what I'm using to water these is just a simple baster, and I'm just dropping on a little bit of water on the top. I haven't set up anything to sub-irrigate these from the bottom. You could probably have like a tote or something that you could lower them down into, but for now I'm just kind of doing it like this, and it's a little bit time consuming as you start to get more and more of these seedlings. So as they get bigger and consume more water, that's going to be an issue, but for now I've been okay, and I'm just able to get some extra seedlings going in an area that was otherwise unused. Here we go. So I made a quick little reflector hood out of a sheet of this ductwork, and bent it like this, and drilled some holes in here so that it will work with my fixtures. And I intentionally have it so that there is more of the reflector surface on this side, because this is the side that'll be, against the sunny window, and so the sun's coming in, where this side isn't normally going to be getting any light coming from this direction. So I'm focusing on trying to reflect it down from this side especially. And I can already tell that it has helped a little bit to help to continue to direct and to point that light from these CFLs more downward, and giving it to these little seedling guys. So while I'm here, let me show you. I thinned out my seedlings, and as I was doing so, I already began to see them kind of growing into each other, and it was a little bit tricky trying to move one without disturbing the one that's right next to it. So as I did that, I distributed them in between the onions, so now it's a better distribution, so there's less interference, less competition for light. They have more space to kind of stretch out, and the onions are perfectly fine the way they are. And that's something that's pretty cool that you can do with a removable tube like this using a Cone-Tainer system. So that's actually kind of fun instead of something that would have been more frustrating. It's neat being able to just have that flexibility of, take this out, move it over here. If there's one on the end that's a little bit straggly, maybe it's not getting as much light, you can move it into the center, and then it'll be able to catch up with everything else. And so I really like that, and look forward to working more with this system. Alright guys, a little more time has gone by, and my seedlings have gotten even larger in these containers. And in fact, I'm now at a point that my leeks and my onions are ready to go outside. So this will be the first seedling that I will be removing from one of the containers. And I wanted you to see how these are looking. So let's grab one of these leeks and take it out of the Cone-Tainer. What I like is at the bottom you can see a nice opening right here. If you've ever messed with those cell packs, it can be really hard sometimes to get the plant and its roots out of those plastic containers. But I'm hoping that I can just push this right out, and what I'm using is just like a basic pencil, unsharpened. So I'm going to give it a shot here, see how well this actually works. That's it. Came out pretty fast once it broke loose. But there you can see there isn't any spiraling of the roots really, and I think that this leek is ready to go out in the ground. I got a few more popped out, and it actually was pretty easy. I think you should make sure that the mix isn't all dry, but make sure that it's nicely moistened. That way it tends to want to stick together better. Of course, the roots help to hold it together, but still, I mean, these could easily break apart, this way, and so you don't want to have that happen if you can avoid it. But no bunching of the roots or anything. These haven't sent out a ridiculous root system, but you do have roots that pretty much went all the way down to the bottom. So, instead of something much more shallow like you would get with a cell pack, those black plastic things, this Cone-Tainer allowed you to get over 5 inches of root that is now ready to just be put straight down into the ground. And I think that's going to really work well for these, so I'm going to go put them outside. In fact, here we are in the back. There is all of my garlic here that looks like it's done really well surviving the winter, and next to it, these are the leeks and the onions that I had started from seed in those containers. So, looks like they've made it through the hardest part, and hopefully they'll start to flourish now. And I think having a more developed root system that I've been able to put in the ground, I think that that's going to help with giving them a good head start. Alright, this is the last Cone-Tainer update that I'm going to do for this video. And my onions and leeks, they've been outside. They've been doing well despite some brutal weather. But now these different brassicas, cabbages, bok choys, they're ready to get in the ground. Some are a little bit overdue. Let's pop a couple of these out of the containers, the Cone-Tainers, and see how the root systems look. Here is a bok choy, and you can see how the plant certainly made use of the entire length of container that was available to it. Those roots reach all the way down, so if you give it that much space, it'll take it, and hopefully that's going to help with the vigor of the plant as I plant it outside. This is where the roots were somewhat guided along those ridges that are inside the container, and so it looks like it did help to prevent them from spiraling around and around, and instead you had them kind of like trailing along that, going more downward. So there is some spiraling here, but I'm pretty happy with what I see, and I'm anxious to see how the rest of these look. Yeah, just look at that. These guys are good to go. They're all looking pretty nice. And here are the Chinese cabbage, which look like they've developed some very nice root systems as well. And they're ready to go in the ground too. And finally, these are my Bok Raab that are also nicely developed in the root systems, making use of all that space, that 5.5 inches that the Cone-Tainers provides. These guys have pretty much depleted all the available nutrients in the mix, I think. I'm starting to get the older leaves having a little bit of some yellowing, so it's time to get them in the ground and have it nicely fertilized for them. That way they can start to do their thing. Here are the Bok Choy. I'm hoping that this is a nice spot for them. In a couple of these containers here, I'm going to be growing corn, but not yet. So this is a perfect spot for these early spring crops. And here's where I have my Raab, and here is the Chinese cabbage. So I think this will be a nice spot for these guys, and I'm excited to see how this all works out. But yeah, very happy with the Cone-Tainers, and it's been a great experience. Definitely going to be using these every year going forward.